And I guess the signing of the other.
Well, we've done both. So we've completed the approvals. Okay, I'm going to call the open meeting back to order. Previously, we had called the meeting to order at 5:15 PM to go into executive session over all the items listed on the agenda. I can report that all of the executive session minutes have been approved and are approved to be released. And so those are going to be released also. I'd like you to join me with the Pledge of Allegiance now. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Next up, staff comments and/or announcements. Okay.
Good evening, Carrie Scherner, Health Director. I am here tonight to let you all know about our Regional Health and Environment Fair. This is going to be April 25th at the 204 Harwich and Cultural Municipal Building from 11 to 2. There will be health screenings, wellness resources, environmental education, tick, mosquito, health education, family-friendly activities, food trucks, presentation, and kids' crafts, and it will follow the Tour de Trash. I got flyers for both. Tour de Trash will be 9 to 11 at the same building, so come on out and see us.
Great. Other staff comments, announcements? Come on up, Aaron.
Do you want to?
I am Tricia Murray. I'm the Vice Chair of the Brooks Free Library Board of Trustees. So I'm not sure if you wanted staff, but anyway, I just wanted to share the good news that after a robust search, we have hired Mark Zomick to be Ginny Hewitt's replacement, and he will start next week. He is a town of Orleans resident and has a long career in libraries, so we're excited for that. And the board would like to thank Jay and Angelique for their help with the negotiating the offer.
Hope he knows he's got super big shoes to fill.
He does. Thank you.
Emily?
Good evening, Emily Mitchell, Town Clerk. Tough to follow that good news. I want to extend my welcome to Mark, too. I look forward to meeting him and working with him. I just wanted to give a quick follow-on announcement. I know last week you had asked during the Select Board comment period at the end of the meeting for an update on the committee member compliance tracking. So today we are 1 week out from the deadline the board set for members who are out of compliance with either conflict of interest training, being sworn in, or receiving and using their town email. So next week, April 13th, was the deadline that the board had set for folks to come into compliance. Again, when I had first sort of brought the list to you of members who were out of compliance with one or more of those 3 items, we had 70 folks on that list. After a couple of weeks, our count as of today, this afternoon, is 37 members who remain out of compliance with one or more of those 3 items. Our office has been holding drop-in hours for folks to come by and get sworn in if that was the item that they were out of compliance in. I have 1 remaining drop-in session for swearing in this coming Friday, April 10th, from 12 to 4. And if folks who need to be sworn in can't come on Friday, I certainly encourage them to reach out to me to make an alternate appointment.
Before you go,
Sure.
In that mix, you have an idea of how many are in that category that they haven't been sworn in at all?
Yes, of the 37, 12 have not been sworn in. The biggest concern ratio-wise is conflict of interest. 31 of the 37 have not completed their conflict of interest training for either 2025 or 2026. 12 folks need to be sworn in, and 7 still need to receive and begin using their town email. If you're doing quick math, you'll see that that adds up to more than 37, and that's because some folks are missing more than one item.
And not to diminish the conflict interest programs, the fact of the matter is, I think it needs to be said so that everybody out there can hear this. If you have not been sworn in, you cannot attend a meeting and vote on the committee that we're talking about, whatever committee that might be, because you're not legally constituted as part of that body without being sworn in.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Other staff.
Following on, Linda Sabula, but following on that, the library trustees are in compliance. I'm speaking today for the Charter Commission, and we posted a packet last week, which is going to be discussed at this Thursday's meeting, and it includes a draft of the charter that we have been working on, as well as a memo on 3 or 4 areas that we still are wrangling. So I urge the public to look at the town website, look at that packet, and start reading through. We are planning, 2 of our members are starting to plan a public information session and meeting, which will be held, in a bit. And we will have then further discussion, but we really urge people to read through it, see what's there, because we really do want to hear from the public, and we especially want to hear from the select board.
To that point, as long as I got you here, because that was going to be the first thought, is you and I have talked about having a joint meeting where we come to you folks and.
Yep.
So can we take what was in that packet as being the current status of
It's
the
the current
recommendations?
status, that's why it was published.
Okay, but we haven't actually committed to a meeting, so I was just thinking, is it possible then, if we talk about this next Monday here, that we could agree to get into your meeting on the Thursday that's subsequent to that? Or is that too soon or too late, or? We just needed a talking point, and there was no
Sure.
point in getting together unless we knew what was being discussed and what the status was.
But there's also the things might not be talking about the things that are on your mind. So part of it is you do have the current charter, and if there are things in there that you would like to bring up that we haven't discussed, that's also appropriate to do. So you would like to think about a joint meeting with us, let's see, if this is the 9th, that would be the 16th? Because I need to post.
That's what I'm pitching, to see whether that's possible or not, because it's
on-
not on the agenda tonight to even discuss, that's
I
what.
understand, but you need
It's
to
fortuitous
tell
that
me.
you're here.
But pick a Thursday.
Okay,
Just let
if-
me
if
know
that's-
enough time in advance so I can
Yeah, that's what I
post.
was driving at, so on Monday, when I put it on the agenda, we can have a discussion about a date specific and convey that to you, so it doesn't have to be the subsequent Thursday, it could be the one after that.
Yes, sure.
Fine, that's great. We'll make sure it's on the agenda for us too to talk about.
And we invite everybody to come to our meetings. They're on Thursday evenings at 6:30, mostly here at the small meeting room. Once a month, they're at the community center because we have a conflict with the finance committee. So,
Yeah, but your husband appreciates that.
and he
gets
won't
the-
move his meeting.
Yeah, no.
He's not being cooperative. Okay. So I'm really looking forward to a conversation. But thank you.
Great, thanks. Any other staff comments, announcements? All right, moving along. Weekly briefing.
All right, an update on Phase 3. Construction on Phase 3 extension continues to advance across both 1E and 2W. Over the next several weeks, crews will be making steady progress on Elm Drive, Maple Lane, Harding Lane, Pleasant Bay Road, installing gravity sewer mains, manholes, and sewer laterals throughout the project area. Work is also moving forward on Route 39, Pleasant Bay Road, and Chestnut Lane Pump Station, including installation of 2 wet wells on Route 39 and continued building work at the other 2 facilities. The activities build on the substantial progress made this spring and keep the project on track. Police and traffic control officers will remain on site to support residents. While brief delays are possible, roads should open and be fully open by the end of each workday. In parallel with field work, We're continuing to work on 3A administratively. The bid opening was held last week, and several competitive bids were received. Tonight, we're working to get the board to vote to authorize the intent to award to SRF. Once that is complete, we'll be waiting on the SRF approval, allowing us to move forward with the contracting and advancing the next phase of the sewer expansion. Updated construction information will be posted on the website and on our social media page.
Okay, and rather than throwing it to the board to ask any questions they might have, we have Dan Pelletier on the agenda later on that's going to be relative to all things sewer. So we'll wait for you. All right. Public comments and/or announcements. All right, moving along.
Mr. Chair, I think we have a nice young lady in the audience who may want to speak at public comment. Did you want to speak at public comment?
There's an agenda item coming up
I'm just making sure, because I don't know what she's here for.
for the Cape Cod Commission,
Okay.
and there's an agenda item.
I'd like to address the Board of Selectmen either now or when you come up to the Cape Cod Commission.
Which is what I intend to do when we get to that, because this isn't really geared towards an interchange.
Just didn't know who she was.
Sure.
Jackie Henston.
Okay.
Any of the younger voters out there have anything they want to say? Okay, I'll take that as a no. So we'll move along. Let's see here, the consent agenda.
Mr. Chair, I move we approve the appointment of Neil Nolan to Special Police Officer as recommended by the Police Chief, effective April 17, 2026.
And I defer to the police chief.
Good evening, Kevin Constantine, Police Chief. Back before you again for a request for a special officer appointment, effective that date. Neil Nolan, a longtime police officer with us, nearly 27 years of service with the Harwich Police Department, advised me that he intends to retire on April 16th. So in order to keep Neil on as a special officer to help out with all the detail work that we have in town, that's the request before you tonight. I just want to give a little background on Neil. He was one of our founding members of our Special Operations Unit, which is our bike patrol, ATV patrol, and motorcycle patrol. As you all know, I'm sure most of you know, Neil loves motorcycles. He took a role in our Cape Cod Law Enforcement Council division on the motor units to get advanced certification to be able to teach motor officers an intensive 2-week course from, so he's taught motorcycle officers all over the Cape, and which is a very difficult course. So Neil has also served in a very important capacity for many, many, many years as an officer in charge, which is a critical role in the police department. So on behalf of the entire police department, I want to thank Neil for his years of dedicated service, and we all wish him a very long, happy, and healthy retirement, and just ask for your support tonight to make him a special officer. Thank you.
I'm looking for a second then.
Second.
You made the motion.
Okay. Second.
It was good the first time around, so why not the second? All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous.
Thank you.
The natural resource officer just came in. Would she want to speak to staff comments?
Yeah, let's do this and I can ratchet back.
Okay. Mr. Chair, I move we approve the Select Board meeting minutes from March 30th, 2026.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes from March 30th, 2026 as presented. Any further comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. We have a natural resources officer sitting in the back. Did you want to make comments for the staff announcements, or you just here to observe us making fools of ourselves? Sure.
Is that okay with the chair?
Absolutely.
Thanks for letting us go off script for that agenda. Just a quick belated staff announcement. We'll have a fantastic fish printing event, very family friendly for adults and kids though. It'll be Thursday, April 23rd at the 204 Cultural Arts Municipal Building. Got it right. Cafeteria.
Thank you.
2 to 3 p.m. We'll have some supplies, bandanas, t-shirts and things, but feel free
to bring your own as well for the fish printing. Don't worry, I won't be using real fish
No,
for anybody that's
that was my question.
anticipating that type of question. But yep, fantastic fish printing.
I got a
It
more
might be
fun,
more entertaining if there were live fish.
I got a more
Probably
fundamental
maybe less
question,
favorite
actually.
than-
Have you paid a copyright infringement fee to the elementary school? That's their reading is fantastic.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
I'll have to,
they own
I'll have
that.
to check at my next meeting. Thank you.
Okay. So presentations.
So, Mr. Chair, to get going on the presentation from Crescendo, we have Carrie Schooner, our health director, here to introduce Crescendo and have them give an update regarding the community needs assessment that they did.
Good evening again, Carrie Scherner. The town of Harwich has recently partnered up with the Lower Cape communities and the town of Dennis to conduct a community engagement and stakeholder interviews regarding our opioid settlement funds to figure out the best way to spend those funding. And I would like to introduce Joe Morrissey from Crescendo Consulting, who's going to present that data to you. So thank you.
Thank you, Carrie, and thank you all. Honored to be here with you this evening. Should I mute? Can't mute, I have to speak. I'm going to share my PowerPoint presentation that I have prepared for you this evening. Forgive me, it's the first time I've used GoToMeetings, but I think I'm doing all right.
At least one of our members is extremely sympathetic to you.
What am I, a dog here?
Thank you. All right, I'm going to do this again, but okay, here we go. So during the, there's an echo. Should I turn down my volume?
It's good on our end. We can hear it okay.
Do you have both the phone and the computer on your end, live?
There's an echo.
Yeah, that's why I was asking.
It seems to have gone away.
If you have two instruments.
I do. So again, my name is Joe Morrissey. I'm with Crescendo Consulting Group, and I'm here this evening to review the results of the opioid regional needs assessment. I will be giving a brief introduction, a history of the opioid settlements, payments and expenditures to date throughout your region, overview of the settlement agreement itself, the methodology that we use to conduct this assessment, the key findings, how we prioritize those findings, and the proposed next steps. So as Carrie had mentioned, Brewster, Chatham, Dennis, Harwich, and Orleans got together and pooled their funding to help conduct a regional approach to a need assessment, recognizing that the opioid epidemic does not know municipal boundaries. A brief history of the opioid settlements in general. Back in 2018, the then governor and attorney general joined the first national, the first national lawsuits, and many states followed. The first payments then started rolling out to municipalities in 2022. As we are today, the 5 towns hosted these regional town halls on best use of the settlement funding and sort of unearth some of those root conditions within your community that would be best met and addressed through those fundings. And then just so that you know that the horizon is that 2038 final payments are due to roll out. So the payments and expenditures as of November 2025 include everything except the most recent settlement with the Sackler and Pharma Purdue company, which is the largest settlement of them all. And that is not reflected in these funding projections here. So payments to date as of November are that first row. Expended as of November 2025 is that first blue band. the remaining balance within each of those municipalities. And as you can see in that bottom row there, their estimated total future payments. And again, I want to reiterate, those do not include the largest settlement that was just settled this January 2025. And those payments should be starting to make their way through the system sometime this year. And they also are projected to go out until 2038. As you can see, Harwich has the lion's share within each municipality within your region. As that, I feel like Carrie's leadership within this whole initiative so far has really been taking, the rest of these towns have really followed suit, and appreciate the efforts that Carrie has led. So a little bit about the settlement agreement. In order to receive any of these funds, each municipality signed a settlement agreement with the Massachusetts Attorney General. The first part of the settlement agreement includes these shared commitments to reflect input from the community, address disparities, address poor mental health and substance use, supplement, not supplant existing programs and services, and encourage innovation and fill gaps. So with these overarching shared commitments, there are 7 major abatement strategy themes within the settlement, otherwise known as allowable expenses. And they include opioid disorder treatment, support for people in treatment and recovery, connections to care, harm reduction, addressing the needs of criminal justice involved persons, some of those high-risk individuals in this scenario, support pregnant or parenting women and their families, including babies with neonatal abstinence syndrome, otherwise known as babies who were born to mothers who had been experiencing an opioid addiction during their pregnancy. And then prevent the misuse of opioids and implement prevention education. Within each one of these overarching 7 strategies are a laundry list of activities that are also recommended or otherwise known as allowable expenses. For those who would like to read more up at home, the blue QR code or that first link will bring you to the expenditure reporting dashboard. At last check, this dashboard was updated with FY24 expenditure and receipts. If you want some more updated information on the payments that municipalities have received to date, you can use that green QR code or that link at the upper right-hand corner to download an Excel spreadsheet that is interactive, and you can pull down per town their receipts to date as well as their projected future payments. I'm also not sure whether the state has updated that Excel spreadsheet to include the Sackler family and Purdue Pharma settlements. And then if you are suffering from insomnia and you really want to get some sleep, I suggest you click on the link on the bottom or the QR code for the full Massachusetts State Subdivision Agreement that is signed by each municipality. So our methodology for our form of discovery of how the communities in Brewster, Chatham, Dennis, Harwich, and Orleans felt were root causes as well as best use of the fundings within their area. We held 5 town hall listening sessions. You can see 1 in each town, and the numbers listed are the total participants. We also sent out a survey through the network within your communities that were serving people for whom opioid use disorders or overdoses have unfortunately become part of their reality. So service nonprofit agencies within your area helped us distribute this survey, and it retained 209 valid survey responses. So key findings. In the theme for treatment, there is a common theme of a lack of 30-day inpatient programs for treatment, lack of follow-up upon release from either incarceration, treatment, and or detox. That sort of also fell under the recovery theme on our next slide. The quality and experience of primary care providers in identifying and assisting folks with substance use disorder in seeking appropriate treatment. A lack of understanding for how to, or even resources to address those dual diagnoses for mental health and substance use disorders. A very common theme in communities that I work with on these topics across the country is a lack of insurance to pay for treatment and recovery. And then finally, there was a common theme of stigma that folks said that they experienced by both healthcare professionals in their lack of willingness to come across and explain or reveal their substance use disorders. And then also just the feeling of stigma by those who are on medicated assisted treatment in order to retain a productive lifestyle. In the theme of recovery, there was a noted lack of sober housing, transportation supports to retain or seek treatment or recovery services. And again, this lack of follow-up upon release from incarceration treatment and or detox. For those in recovery, they had a strong desire for need for self-care training, sort of getting them back on their feet and on the road to a healthy lifestyle that included nutrition, stress management, physical activity supports, mindfulness, acupuncture, and then of course that lack of insurance or inability to pay for services that they need. And then in addition to that, there's sort of need support for needed services, again, to get them back to self-sufficiency through employment, connections, job training, housing, and counseling. In the law enforcement bucket, there was noted need for social workers to be co-responders that would help sort of alleviate that tension of officers arriving to the scene and not really knowing how to support either the person for whom has been suffering an overdose or their family members. Interestingly enough, a lot of folks noted that the judicial response was too lenient on drug dealers and support for criminal justice involved individuals who are leaving incarceration. In the family and community realm, support for services for impacted family members, the need for prevention, the availability and training on how to use Narcan, and education in general around the opioid crisis epidemic, as well as the services that are available. So we presented these findings in December 19th, 2025 to 23 participants representing municipalities, key partners, and those with lived and living experience. We reviewed these findings and prioritized these identified needs. We used what we call a modified Henlin method, where each participant was asked to rank each of those needs 3 times. First, by magnitude or size. Secondly, by severity or the seriousness of the issue. And then the feasibility or ability to address the need. And so all of those needs in ranked order are on the screen as you see here. That's too much for me to read, but I'll give it a pause for you to be able to read it yourself. So the proposed next steps would be to host a strategic planning initiative, which would, so what we have here is the work plan to create a strategic plan. So the first proposed step would be to create an opioid strategic planning charter. This charter would outline the number of seats within the strategic planning group, the representatives who are in the strategic planning group, outline things such as decision-making authority, so that we're creating sort of the game plan for how this strategic planning work group would operate. Once we have the strategic planning charter in place, we then can recruit strategic planning committee members and then collect and analyze secondary data related to the opioid use. So the needs assessment that we conducted in the fall of 2025 did not look at things such as calls for service or opioid overdoses within certain towns or regions, which could help inform the identification of not only which strategies, but where the strategies would be most useful to deploy. With all of that information, host a workshop where we present all of the data and solicit from the members in the workshop suggested strategies. And then using the results from that workshop, review and refine and draft a strategic plan and identify key performance indicators in order to help us ensure accountability on that strategic plan. And then once we get a strategic plan down and we have identified how we're going to monitor our progress, it is at that point where we're then able to turn our attention to allocating the funding from the opioid settlement dollars on how it would support the identified activities within that strategic plan. At this point, the plan would then be ready to be presented to the select boards for review and approval. And once that's done, turning things over to the Office of Local and Regional Health to help you all set up a shared service agreement or an official opioid abatement collaborative so that you have on paper signed legal documents as to how each municipality will be contributing financially to the strategic plan. And then monitor those key performance indicators for required state reporting for at least that first year's report that would be due at the end of, well, it would be for activities through the end of June 2027. So with that, I will stop sharing, I think. And take any questions.
Questions? Comments? Mark?
Just one question, and Carrie may have answered it before. Harwich has the largest payment, $388,000 versus Orleans, $107,000, Dennis, $135,000. Why is Harwich so much? Is it based on population, or what's the reason for that?
Dennis is a bigger population.
A good question, and I'm sorry I didn't go into that during my presentation. I meant to. The formula for distributing these funds were set at the national level during the national settlement agreements with distributors and manufacturers. And so communities across the United States are asking themselves the same question. Why is it one town has the lion's share surrounded by a bunch of towns that really feel like they have the same level of skin in the game, so to speak, and yet don't have nearly as much? All I can say really is the formula for distributing those dollars was set at the national level, and that's just the way it shook out.
Thank you.
I wish I had a better answer.
Jeff?
Yeah, just a few. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you, and thank you for being here, all of you. As last year, as I mentioned to Carrie last year, the sample size for, the intake, I wish would have been a little greater than 209, and then 68 people, I believe, participated. That's always a problem when you try to collect data, is participation. People surveying from all 5 towns, 209 people filled out a survey, and 63 participants in 5 towns attended a listening session. It'd be great if we could find a way to increase that. I would like to ask, how have previous years' funds been spent?
So I can maybe speak on both of those things. The efforts were definitely there to try to get people to come out and speak. It's not always a topic that people want to come and share their experiences on. This one is definitely a little bit, there's more stigma to it. A lot of the Surveys, we wanted to try to get people with lived experiences, so we put those surveys out through our stakeholders and partners. We didn't do just a general community survey. We did on our websites, but we tried to push the focus on people with lived experience through those programs and services. As far as what the funds have been spent on so far, we have had 3 years of a shared service through Outer Cape Health for our recovery coach position through their department. We also have funded Duffy's Center in Dennis to facilitate some furniture and revamp their services to make it like a hangout spot for the youth. And we've given funding to Behavioral Health Innovators. We've spent money with Dry Dock. It's an organization in town. So that's money that hasn't been officially spent yet, but is in the works. But for the most part, that's how the funding has been spent.
Excellent. A few more if I could. The needs assessment, does that, it appears that you spoke to law enforcement to get some of their input. And when you mentioned stakeholders, would the stakeholders be like Cape Cod Healthcare, the Cape Cod Healthcare system? Would it include the DA, Rob Galabois?
I do not think we included the DA in that.
Okay.
No.
This is a hard one for me. I worked in healthcare for a long time. I understand there's a wild and very strong mental component to all of this as well, which is why I saw, I'm glad to see the social worker, the need for increased social workers. Yeah, that's all for me, Mr. Chair. I just say thank you for being here.
Okay. And thank you for bringing that up, because that's where I'm going, in a more macro way. Over the last, let's assume that there's at least a great concern, because it's listed here as the highest priority, of avoidance and working with kids. We have our youth counselor here, and that was always in our minds as a town. That's why we created that position. But we have had, to Jeff's point, on Cape Cod, a pretty poor history of either adolescent or pediatric psychiatrists. I'm not talking about therapists. There's a lot of therapists out there right now, and counselors. But as Jeff correctly pointed out, there's like a mixing of problems here. You've got mental issues which may be driving use, and use issues which may be driving mental issues. That makes it a really important conversation to have with both Outer Cape and Cape Cod Healthcare, because ultimately, unless you get that position in a hierarchy driving some of the treatment options, we're still stuck with an awful lot of people. To get any kind of real robust services have to go across a bridge to do it. And that's not really what I was hoping for, because if you're going to be talking about avoidance, you really need the whole package to wrap around this, and it's probably more of the consultant than anybody. I'm concerned that we're going to blow through this dealing with a symptom instead of working on a problem.
So one of the goals that we hope to look forward to in the future is a potential regionalization approach, which would allow us to pool funding with the other surrounding communities. It would allow us to actually get state matched funding as well, because they want to encourage regionalization approaches. But that is something we're just starting those conversations on, and more information will be brought to you as we explore those. Because opioids don't know boundaries, People with substance abuse might work in one community and live in another, and we need to find a bigger way to create a better resolution rather than just small piecemeal.
Well, that's why I brought up psychiatry, because you can't be a psychiatrist without being an MD. And so they get to prescribe, and they will understand the chemical implications of a lot of this stuff. And there really needs to be, I'm assuming that that's partly where Jeff was going, that
Yeah, and
triage.
I'll add, if I could, to your point later.
Sure.
Now,
Yeah, go
okay?
ahead.
Not later. I think what I would be looking for when you go through the proposed strategic planning work plan is a real solid continuum of care for each and every patient that begins at the medical level, typically Cape Cod Healthcare, ER, through primary care. And I understand funding and insurance is an issue, but this is why these dollars are really so important. And, you know, it has been proven time and time again that when you replace a self-harm habit with a positive habit, whether it be fitness, exercise, activity, fishing, things like that go a long way. And I would really like to see that be part of the continuum of care, because as we all know, treatment has a very low success rate, And if we could trade a self-harm habit with a positive self-good habit, the results are much better.
We need wraparound support services.
That's a great way to put it, yeah. An ongoing wraparound support, so thank you.
Yep.
That's all for me. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is that everybody? Any comments?
I'll ask a question if I could. So I think task number 1 was to create an opioid strategic planning charter. Who are the individuals that create that charter?
Well, that is to be determined. I think that's the next step, and I think that is kind of looking at that regional approach. So we would have, you know, a couple members from each community come together and represent the towns as a whole. But that's a much bigger discussion at a later time when we have a little bit more detail to provide on that, because we're just starting to look into that right now.
As far as the construction of that group that would create the charter, okay.
Yeah, and I think Crescendo's proposal is working us to that point, so helping us facilitate and get to that point.
Yeah, and I just saw the time frame being April, May, so I didn't know how far along that conversation has gotten. Clearly, it's in its infancy. And when and this is not my wheelhouse, I'm not gonna pretend I know a lot about it. There are some areas here where I would think we shuffle the deck, but again, not for me to really get into it. But when we talk about social workers and, you know, the relation with law enforcement, I assume that there's partnership with local law enforcement when those discussions happen, and I'll call it buy-in for lack of a better term, right? You know, we just saw something recent in the news that occurred in the city of Boston where it didn't go so well, but at the same time, there's value to it and there's legitimacy to it. But I assume, again, that there's buy-in, there's conversations with those folks to make it happen and happen effectively.
Yeah. Chief Considine is on our opioid working group, so he's definitely involved in all the conversations that we have, and never force anything or try to get them to implement anything that their staff wasn't comfortable with, so.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, that was one thing that what we accomplished in Middleborough in the last few years with the opioid funding that I think actually moved the needle a little, was we employed a clinician that worked with the police department. It was like a mental health director that was more than just, you know, front line with the police, but he worked in all of the community as well to deal with mental health challenges, and we used the opioid funding to do that. I think it really worked well because we had the right individual that had a really good relationship with law enforcement in Middleborough, so there was a really strong comfort level there, but I think in the right situation it works really well, having a clinician work with law enforcement directly. Obviously, notwithstanding what happened in Boston over the weekend. Yeah.
And that's part of the recovery coach position too. They do station at the police department, take referrals from police and fire, and try to connect with these individuals to get them connected to they're not a clinician, but they try to get them connected to the services that they may need.
Anita?
I just have one question. Thank you, Carrie, for bringing this forward. But I see that there's only 5 towns listed. Is this also going to be something that's Cape-wide?
So I'm not sure where the county lies on a regional approach,
Okay.
but I know that this started as a small conversation, and we've got Dennis involved because they heard of what we were doing. So we were looking at it from a Lower Cape standpoint, but Dennis is really eager to work with people and get a regional approach because they believe in the value of, you know, it not having any boundary, you know, opioid addiction not having any boundaries too.
Thank you.
So.
Thank you.
Mark? Yeah, I'm just going to wrap it up with one comment, because part of this doesn't have any real durability. We have Narcan right now, and thank God it works and it's been deployed. But as I've been reading over the last few weeks, there's new developments. If we were talking 10 years ago, or 15 years ago, we wouldn't be talking fentanyl because we would have no idea what the heck that was. This is a moving target. The problem is the same. The mechanism is somewhat different depending on what they're taking. I wouldn't hang my hat on Narcan as a solution for anything other than near term to keep people from passing away. Because there are things that are beyond the capabilities of Narcan now.
Yep, you're not wrong. It's scary to think that, fentanyl is making its way into a lot of other things, and Narcan won't revive you from that.
With that, we wish you really good success.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you for the presentation. Thank you for coming also.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, you as well. We have a youth counselor who's actually sitting in here. She's got skin in the game, too. We've been trying different approaches ourselves for like 25, 30 years now. So pretty proud of that as a town, but if there were no problems, I'd be prouder.
It's a tough nut to crack. It's a very multi-sectoral, long-range game.
Well, we'll keep chipping away at it. Hopefully we make progress, and I appreciate your efforts to doing that. But I think I get where the drift of the board is going. I like the idea of collaborating and spending money on creating some sort of strategy, but at the end of the day, I'm more about deploying it to the people who actually need it and actually starting to get into doing something physically with the individuals directly.
Exactly.
So with that, thanks again for doing the presentation for us. Okay, we're going to move on then. Thank you. All right. We have a presentation. I'm not sure it's in combination or directly with the chief, but the fire department permitting and inspection fee restructuring recommendations.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. We have Chief LeBlanc here this evening to discuss adjusting the fee schedule around permits and fees that the fire department charges for inspections and permits, along with looking to add a CPR class. I'll turn it over to the chief to go through the proposed changes.
Hey, good evening, thank you. So Brandon Farrow, who's the fire prevention officer, once he took over to replace Bruce Young in August, started looking at our fee structure and realized a couple things. So we're on our existing fee structure, which unfortunately hasn't been updated since 2008. There were many inspections we weren't capturing, so inspections that we're required to do by the state, but were not on our fee schedule. There were other inspections that we no longer do, that were on the fee schedule, and then our price or our charge for the fees was all over the place compared to the surrounding towns. So we did a deep dive in the towns around us. The county or the local towns are looking to standardize fees across the board. So realtors, we deal, realtors and fire alarm companies that deal with all of our towns, and every town they go to, the fees are different. So we're looking to try and standardize that. Some of our fees have gone up in comparison to what they were. Others have gone down based on to kind of adhere to the standard. And then we added some fees that we're supposed to be charging. The new ones are in the packet, the ones that are highlighted in yellow. And then the other thing was we have done CPR classes throughout the course of time using Cape and Islands EMS as the accrediting agency. So we do the instruction, but they're the ones that handle all the fees and charge for the class. They're no longer going to be doing that role, so we need to be able to take money in to pay for the classes so we can provide the materials. So that's a straight pass-through fee. It's the cost of the certification. There's no extra money attached to it. So we're just looking to kind of bring this up to date. This kind of came out of interim town administrator Schiavi's goal of looking at it, at anything else that we should be looking at to make sure that we're capturing all the revenue that we should be capturing. Any questions? I'm more willing to answer.
Mark?
Dave, thank you so much. A quick question. It's kind of related to the liquor license renewal. Who handles, since we're coming on summertime, the capacity issues? That may not be a fee schedule, but I just want to ask that because I knew that was an issue last year.
So Ultimately, occupancy is determined by the building department, and we are essentially the enforcement, not necessarily the enforcement agency, the inspecting agency. So if there's an overcrowding complaint that happens in the moment, the fire department has the jurisdiction and authority to go down and investigate it. Ultimately, it's up to the building department to then deal with it beyond the fact. We report to them. In the case of liquor licenses, it would be coupled to a report to the board as a licensing authority. So that's kind of our role. We kind of enforce it for them. Obviously, if it's a severe overcrowding, we're going to rectify the situation immediately and then follow up with a report to the building department afterwards.
Marine fueling, is that,
Before you go on with that, because this is on subject to that, I just want to point out to everybody here, because who may not be familiar with where we got to. First of all, we always do the seminar for license renewals or acquisitions, but upon advice of council a couple of years ago, we ceded authority for the capacity from health and building to incorporate in the licenses that they would get an engineering result. So essentially, they're giving their own capacity at this point, which is something I'm not sure that we may not want to keep an eye on, because that's embedded inside the license now. It's not something where there's a arm's length department that establishes that number.
So well, a couple things with that. So the regulations were a little conflicted, and health, police, and fire all got together, and so I can't enforce, well, I can, but seating. Seating doesn't include transient traffic, people standing at a bar, doesn't include staff. So if we go in and use, say, 37 seats for an establishment, but there's 100 people in there, by square footage, they may not be overcrowded. So for us as a fire department to get called out for an overcrowding complaint, yeah, it violated the liquor license, but it didn't violate the building code. So when we suggested the design engineer, that's for them to establish a number that's then reviewed by the building department to get concurrence, and then that was a number on the license. So we were only enforcing one number from this point forward. There's still the question of them being overcrowded based on their seating for health, but that's a different issue, and the health department was comfortable dealing with that as they had to, because the biggest failure there is the septic system will fail sooner. It's not an immediate threat to life and safety.
Yeah, what I was driving at is actually something you just answered. It has been a question nagging me, is like, who's in a position to challenge that number that the restaurant or establishment has bought? And basically, you're saying that it has to get concurrence from the building department.
It has to be submitted to building and be reviewed and signed off on, yes.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
That's all right. Marine fueling, is that the fuel docks at Harwich, Port and Allen, or is it like the Monomoy fuel, Cape Cod oil, the trucks that go down there?
I believe that would be fueling at the docks, because the tank truck inspection is a separate inspection. But I believe to fuel at the docks, they have to have a separate permit.
Okay.
And that's what that would involve.
And the last question is energy storage. Are you getting much, that I would imagine is like the Tesla battery storage. Are you getting much call for that? And if you're inspecting it, it sounds like almost redundant. I would imagine the electrical inspector is kind of the main person, but I'm just wondering what the fire does, unless there's combustible material close.
There's specifics within the fire code, or within the building code, that are fire-related in terms of it either has to be, I'm not exactly 100% sure, but it either has to be exterior of the building, like in a separate building, or in a certain level of fire protection in the room that it's stored in. Obviously, because we all know what happens with lithium-ion batteries when they run away.
Are you getting much call for that?
There is a few, not a lot. They're still really expensive. So there hasn't been a ton of them, but there are a couple in town. And I think you're only going to see more as it goes on.
Thank you.
Pete, Jeff, Anita, anybody?
Just a quick question on the thought process with no charge for the open burning.
This has gone back and forth. We used to charge for it. It's a giant administrative hassle for the $5 fee that we charged for it. And then during COVID, when there was no contact, we did away with it, and kind of I've left it that way since. It's really, for what we have for staff and trying to manage it, it's just easier to do the system we have now, which is pretty typical across the Cape. You just call in the day you want to burn. As long as you've called in and you have the rules and regulations, you can burn. We track it that way.
Okay, sounds good. Good, thank you.
Good. No, good, thank you.
Okay, thanks, chief.
All right, thank you.
So I'm looking for
Are you,
action.
do you want action, or are you bringing this back for a hearing?
All right,
No, I'm not, that's a question, I'm not asking either way.
It's up to you.
I would just soon take an action on it, because it's not like a rec and youth, or, this is something that's somewhat statutory based on the department.
Mr. Chair, motion to approve the Harwich Fire Department fee schedule as outlined in tonight's packet.
Second.
Okay, got a couple of seconds. It's moving second and to approve the fee schedule as presented. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstain?
How's that?
You're unanimous then. Thanks, chief.
I think you made the chief's night.
Yeah, I'll bet we have. But the cautionary tale is, when they do get all of the applicants into the room to start to talk about stuff, it would be a helpful thought about overcrowding then, so we don't wind up having to
Usually is.
chase the tail. Okay, but again, thank you. All right. Wastewater update. Dan, it's good to see you. You can sit if you want.
Good evening, Dan Pelletier, Waterworks Consulting. If you want me to just kind of kick off with what we've been working on behind the scenes, and then we can open it up to any questions you may have.
Sure.
So it was probably a month or two ago now, myself and Skiavi had met with the town of Dennis to discuss recharge at staff level. The town of Dennis remains in...
Back up, for those folks who haven't been following the discussion, the recharge discussion was based on opening up initial discussions with Dennis about whether or not we could share facilities for wastewater processing.
for treatment,
Yeah.
as opposed to building a treatment plant in Harwich.
Yeah, and we weren't just taking in somebody else's treatment water. So that's why the discussion occurred.
So, currently the situation in Dennis is that they are in the middle of building their wastewater treatment plant. They expect it to be wrapped up by early 2028. That wastewater treatment plant has a capacity of 1 million gallons per day, roughly, and they currently are only sitting on about 100,000 gallons of recharge capacity. So, with regard to potential negotiations between Harwich and Dennis, Harwich bringing recharge to the table would be very, very beneficial to the discussion. That being said, there was funding that was approved at last year's town meeting. I believe it was about $150,000. I have requested a proposal from GHD to continue effluent recharge investigation. We had completed a small, I think, $60,000 scope about a year ago, and this is really building on that to do further investigation and drill in and identify real sites that we can begin to look at for permitting. Additionally, with GHD, they have provided to the town for internal review draft CWMP revisions.
Before you go into that, let's back up to finish the Dennis discussion. Because it was for about an hour and a half, so I just want to make everybody aware that it was integral to the discussion about whether or not we could participate in buying capacity, that they are extremely interested in knowing what our recharge capacity is and what our response would be for that, because it was the quid pro quo. We'll do that if you get involved with recharge. So that's where we left the room ultimately.
Correct. And I actually met with them on another matter a few weeks ago and brought the subject of recharge up, and the statement was, well, when you have a recharge site, let's talk. So
that's the point I wanted to make.
So moving on with the CWMP, like I said, the GHD has provided draft revisions for internal review. I'm working to coordinate with Jay and some other internal staff so we can have some discussions on those. I'm also meeting with GHD on Friday to discuss both CWMP revisions and the effluent recharge scope. So I think they're hoping for a quick follow-up before they get those into you guys for consideration. Also going on in the background with regard to Pleasant Bay Alliance, the town of Harwich, as well as the other member communities, have just been recently issued the watershed permit for Pleasant Bay. We had completed our first 5-year block of that 20-year watershed permit, and they have now gone through and reissued it. It now reflects Harwich's contributions or nitrogen removal achieved through Phase 2 and Phase 3. The new permit acknowledges that Harwich is removing 101% of their obligated nitrogen removal amounts for the Pleasant Bay watershed. And that amount also includes growth anticipated over the next 20 years, expected to occur in East Harwich. So barring any major changes in East Harwich, Harwich should be completely done in Pleasant Bay once Phase 3 is wrapped up. That said, through that permit renewal process, the Pleasant Bay Working Group had evaluated the intermunicipal agreement amongst the 4 member communities that was originally signed in 2018. We went through and really brought it up to 2026. Carol Ridley is going to be circulating that, as well as the final permit to Jay and the other town administrators to be brought in front of you guys for acceptance and adoption. Again, those are pretty minor changes, but you should see that in the next couple weeks. I think that covers most of what's been going on, so open to any questions.
Okay, this is your shot, everyone. You wanted to get
All right, Dan,
Dan in here.
just for people out in the public, explain what a recharge is. My understanding is the treated effluent from the plant is pumped out of there, and it goes to a location, and it percolates back into the soil.
In a nutshell, yes. There are several different recharge technologies. You have open sand beds, subsurface, wick wells, so it depends on the type of recharge facility you're building, but in a nutshell, yes, you're taking treated, what would otherwise be aesthetically, visually clean water and recharging it into the ground.
Do you need a facility for that, or is it basically a leach field?
Essentially a leach field.
Okay. Is the most feasible location for that? Where is the most feasible location for that right now?
If I had the answer to that question.
There's been some talk about the disposal area, and I just wanted to...
At least in Harwich, so we had looked at a couple of sites. There was one that we had looked at on private property in North Harwich, adjacent to a horse farm. We looked at another parcel north of Route 6, but south of the Headwaters neighborhood. We looked at recharge potentially on the golf course. As we get to the golf course, you are getting into the Water Department Zone 2 that contributes to Chatham Road, so that would have to be very, sited in a particular location. There was original investigation at the landfill site, but further investigation showed that recharge there would be limited due to the streams behind it and ponds, that there wasn't enough capacity. I want to say it was only 100,000 gallons for Harwich's 1.3 in recharge that we're going to need.
Okay, so, and does it affect the groundwater? I mean, some people, I think people were thinking it could be at the disposal area. Does that affect the Herring River? Or is it goes deep down into the...
So part of the siting of the recharge site, right, we have to do groundwater modeling, and there are regulated thresholds at which you can or cannot impact an adjacent water body. So in the instance of the Herring River, we would model in a computer, and then we would go out and do field investigation where we would actually do a perk test and verify the infiltration rate. But we would create what's called mounding the groundwater and seeing how much of an impact that's going to have on Herring River or a pond. And that's what's going to drive your recharge capacity on a given site down, because DEPs, you have to prove to DEP through the permitting process, I'm not going to impact Herring River's water flows greater than XYZ percentage, if at all allowable, as it's permitted. As far as water quality, the treatment wastewater treatment plants are not treating to drinking water standards. So, again, we try to cite these things out of the water protection resource areas. But there's always been discussion, at least in my time here previously, of concerns about recharge, contaminants of emerging concern, things like PFAS. And if the wastewater treatment plants are not removing PFAS, what is the potential to impact groundwater here? I think it's important to understand, one, what those concentrations are. We won't know until the plant comes online, but my philosophy has always been that if Harwich is building a recharge site, Harwich can build whatever recharge site it wants. And if Harwich is concerned about PFAS, Harwich could elect to potentially build carbon filters to run that treated effluent through to remove PFAS before it goes to subsurface disposal. I'm not aware any of those types of recharge facilities exist. It would probably be the first of its kind. But I would have always felt that if Harwich is constructing it, you ultimately have control of what happens before it goes in the ground.
This last question, do you know when the West Harwich dry pipe and the water pipe that work will start?
Yeah, so I had a pre-construction conference with them a week or two ago. The contractor said that they do not anticipate any significant work to occur before September. They may do some erosion control or minor activities. They were due to provide DOT with construction schedule on April 1st. I have not seen a copy of that. They're likely going back and forth on the schedule, but it is a 5-year project. So in general, I would always install the deepest utility first, and where the dry sewer pipe is going to be one of the shallower ones, because we've kept it up for that reason. It may not go in for 2 or 3 years. Again, once we get that schedule from the contractor and DOT, we could circle back and give you an update on that.
I just have one more question, Mr. Chair, if I could. Sure. After we finish Sand Pond, I think that's 3A, where's the next area that's going to be sewered that people could anticipate?
Great Sand Lakes. Just to
Great Sand
clarify.
Lakes.
So I would argue that's still subject to future debate. There is a tentative or draft phasing schedule on the town's website under the wastewater information tab that kind of sequences out what GHD has presented in the draft revisions. But those revisions are still in draft, and I think it's fair game to change it at this point. If you're going to change it, you want to do it now before it goes through MEPA review and formal adoption at the state level. So I think we're in that period right now.
But I believe, just for the record here, that we made some influential promises to the town meeting that we were not going to be sequencing aggressively the next phase, not based on the plan, but based on the finances of the plan. And hopefully, I guess the question to assuage anybody's concerns here is, if you take Chatham, Orleans, Barnstable, and Falmouth out of the equation, in terms of where the other towns are and where we are, what's your assessment of?
We are very far ahead, in my opinion. I have actually just had the opportunity through a project I'm doing with Orleans to go to a number of the Cape Cod towns, and I'm seeing that some of them are just starting to revise their CWMP. They haven't done any construction, and they're going to be in a mad dash to 2030 to get their watershed permits in. A lot of them are just in the first phases of construction, so they haven't worked through people coming online, flow. Harwich is definitely a decent ways ahead. One thing that I had always said with regard to what was next, the town's investing a couple $1 million to put a pipe in the ground on Route 28. I always thought it logical to make that work before moving on to anything else significantly, but it's just my opinion.
And an extension of that same discussion, and we'll go back onto your question list. It just seems to me that if anyone is out there thinking that we don't have to build any treatment plant anywhere, and we could just keep taking water, sending it out to get treated elsewhere and recharged elsewhere, when we're talking about hundreds of thousands of gallons a day, that's probably not a real wise way of approaching recharge.
No, we're ultimately, I mean, tapped out for treatment wise between phase 2, 3, and 3A Great Sand
Yeah, I'm
Lakes,
talking about
and then
taking water out that you took from one of your wells.
Right.
And we're sending it to Chatham, possibly to Dennis. But if anyone's thinking that we don't want to take anything back.
Right, yeah, good
That's
point.
not a real good argument to make
So we
geologically.
yeah, it's ultimately because it's all one aquifer, it wouldn't technically be interbasin transfer, but to your point, recharge that is currently contributing to the groundwater through all the Title V septic systems now is going to be collected and conveyed, and in the instance of East Harwich, it's getting treated in Chatham, discharged in Chatham, and all that water that used to percolate back to the groundwater table and recharge the aquifer is no longer up gradient of where Harwich is drawing its water from.
That's the point I was trying to make. Go ahead, Mark.
I'm all set.
Jeff?
All set? Thank you, Dan.
Pete? Nita?
I'm all set.
Good.
Okay.
Thank you.
It's not often somebody gets to the point where we don't have any questions anymore, but thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Michigan or Yukon?
Do you want to do D?
U of C, I watch
Okay.
Let me flip these two because we got somebody sitting here who's currently in one position, and we're going to talk about another one. We have to talk about reappointment or appointment of a Harwich representative of the Cape Cod Commission. Jackie Edston's here. She's currently our representative if anybody wants to ask any questions. We're moving fast now. Thanks.
Thank you. I can share with her, or you can.
Thank you.
I see we've had a policy shift in the Edson household about whether to remain. I might point out to you that the appointment expires in April anyway. You don't have to resign from the second. We can only talk.
I don't want to be reappointed.
I gather that that's what the point is. Ultimately, I mean, I'm going to kick this off. Ultimately, whether you like or don't like anybody who's a representative for any of the things that we're sending people out of the town to represent, one thing I find really important, and I would hope that the interview committee focuses on this, is we're not looking for homogeneity. We're not looking for vanilla. We're not looking for somebody who's just going to go along to get along. And the commission, unfortunately, as it's constituted now, has a tendency to do groupthink. And I'm
Is there
pretty
a tendency to,
groupthink, where, and whoever we get, I would really like to be an independent thinker, whether we agree on a particular issue or not. I'd like them to represent the town rather than the commission. And that's my 2 cents, but Jack, if you want to interject.
I have nothing,
Well,
thank you, Mr. Chair, other than thank you for your time and service.
oh, you're
I'm
welcome.
going to let Jackie.
Oh, I thought you said Jeff. My fault.
Oh, that's
I
okay,
apologize.
but you can say the same thing in a
I
couple
apologize.
minutes.
My apologies.
I would say that it's with some sadness, because I don't feel that that the commission is going in a way that I believe that it should be. And I don't feel that I've been able to have enough impact to turn it around or in a direction which I think it was intended to be. And so it's a level of frustration, of kind of banging your head against the wall for year after year.
That's basically what I wanted everybody to hear, because I know it's a frustrating journey at times for you, and you and I have talked about that in the past. So, again, the question we've got to answer is who can we get to send there to best represents what we would like to see happen, as opposed to someone who's just going to be a team player for the commission itself. Because oftentimes, I believe you've been frozen out of a bunch of discussions.
I hope that you have somebody who's interested in the natural environment, and listening to the previous speaker, water resources are considered individually when a particular development comes forward, but only with the immediate impact. And I remember when I first began in planning down in Barnstable, first thing we did was look at what's the growth potential of the town. Not easy to assess, but we looked at the amount of land that was available, we looked at past growth rates, and we estimated what the water needs were going to be, and then so based on that, the sewer needs. I don't see the towns doing that these days, and yet they need to be. So I would hope anybody going in would have some interest in water resources, and of course all the other impacts of it. And the sort of thing that I found frustrating is we had, for example, an economic development plan, perfectly okay economic development plan, primarily created by what we were calling stakeholders. I know there's people who had an interest in, and that's fine. You need their knowledge, but there's a larger context to that. And they never address the fact that the economic basis of the Cape is based on its natural resources, environments, its water resources, its ponds, its harbors, and its community character, a small-scale development, historic preservation. That was just totally unaddressed and not acknowledged. And that's what I mean about when you're dealing with planning, you're dealing with multiple issues that you balance. And one issue, planning, is not really planning. It's advocacy. So, and I see that in quite a few areas.
And I gather that they are often operating on a subcommittee basis.
I'm sorry, there are what?
I gather that they're often dealing with issues on the basis of a subcommittee
Yes, the
model,
subcommittees
rather than the whole
definitely
commission
Yes.
dealing with things.
Yes, the subcommittees review a draft, that draft is finalized, it comes to the whole commission, and it's just simply approved without discussion. And a number of times I brought up issues, there is a dead silence on part of the staff, nobody responds, and the rest of the commission members, I don't think, know what to do, and then it gets approved and it's gone. And this happens time after time after time. It's not an occasional thing, it's the pattern.
I bring this up because we pay an assessment to be part of this whole process.
I say
We pay an assessment to be part of this process. That's why I'm bringing this up. Because I want to make sure that our voices are heard. Whether or not it's a particular project everybody agrees to, but it's well stated. The original commission was supposed to balance development with
Yes.
protection and
Yes.
and be cognizant of the particular community needs in terms of what is being
Yes.
approved. And it seems like we're veering away from that more and more. So regardless of this, we need to actually take some action to recruit, to see if we can get some people to interview for this.
Yes.
So Jeff, now you're up.
I had kept asking year after year after year for the full commission to review the budget. Deaf ears. A small hand-picked committee goes over the budget and basically says, yes, very small categories. There's an item one year for $700,000 for some mapping. I still haven't figured out what it's for. And I've asked repeatedly. So it's, as I said, frustrating. Another example, when one of the plans came through for approval and I had read it, there was a change in policy so that harbor areas, harbor zones, and traditionally many of the towns, Barnstable especially, have done their best to protect water-related uses around the harbors. Because if you're going to have a thriving boating community, fishing community, you need those services. The change now says all forms of housing are accepted in these areas. That puts a bullseye on the marine-related uses because they don't produce that sort of income. And if somebody is thinking of retiring out, they want a Maxton, they will sell to a developer rather than another marine-related use. And I said this, again, it was a dead silence. So, frustrating. Nothing like throwing a few bombs here, but
That's okay, we got you here at least. So, Jeff, do you have
any
anything more?
questions?
The only thing I'd like to say is thank you for your time and your service. I have reached out to a couple of people. Joyce McIntyre is interested from the local comprehensive plan, and local planning committee, and a few others. So there are some interested parties.
I know that in the
Yes.
comprehensive plan that she does, or she has been
Yeah.
cognizant of the preserving part.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
That's the reason I wanted to lay a marker down, because I'm not just interested in having somebody go become part of the team.
Right, agreed.
Mark?
I don't want to put words in your mouth, Jackie, but you had mentioned, until we get a replacement for you, maybe you could fill the boarding.
I'd
Could
be
you
glad
willing
to
to serve?
continue until you are ready, and let me know. I
That's a
think
whole
I've done
3
it
weeks,
about
right?
7 or 8 years. Pardon?
That's a whole 3 weeks. Just pointing that out.
Well,
Unless we were to do an interim appointment, it's 3 weeks. That's where we're at. So I'm going to put it again on the agenda next week, and hopefully the interview committee can set up some stuff. Because hopefully you'll have more than a couple of interviews.
Sure.
Okay, no, thank you, Jackie, for all that you've done over the
Well,
years.
no, thank you. It's Harwich is special.
We know
We'd like to
that.
think so.
Yeah, thank you.
Curious, before you go, if I could ask a couple quick questions.
Yes.
How often do you have to meet?
How often do I have to meet?
Yeah, with the commission.
How often
Well,
do they meet?
It's very,
It varies?
it varies a lot. It's supposed to be once a month. Sometimes there aren't any meetings, and then all of a sudden, recently we've been getting a lot of DRIs, developments of regional impacts, large-scale developments. And the commission has been kind of welcoming to some pretty awful developments. And the concern is always, the more lax you are, the more you will attract, and the more problems you will have. I think that's the nature of enforcement. The worst is when you get a project like Weechmere Harbour, and there were a lot of hearings on that, and one went 5 hours, which was probably the worst. So somebody who can sit down and absorb that.
And if you're a member of one of their subcommittees, do you meet more often? Or is
Yes,
that-
yes,
Okay.
yes,
And that's going to depend on which committee you're on, which subcommittee you're on,
yes,
meaning how often that
yes.
was?
But you have to be selected to be on the
Agreed,
subcommittee.
yeah, you have to be special.
Yes.
So, understood. And I'll just, based off of some of your comments, I'll just say to my colleagues that apparently transparency is a subjective term when it comes to the commission, so that's a little bit alarming. If we have a member requesting financial information and not able to obtain it, that really does concern me. So, in no disrespect to any names that were brought up tonight, but to be honest with you, as I sit here, and with all due respect to Jackie and her service, I greatly appreciate it. But if a resignation is effective at the end of the month, then I'm fine with that. I would rather see the seat left unoccupied than make a bad decision in our nomination process. So, my 2 cents. I'd rather get it right than just fill it.
And I fully agree with that. That's why I wanted to have this discussion, because it's not just like the next person in the room. It's super important. I know Jackie's been fighting a whole lot of battles that don't seem like they're going her way, or our way. Let me put it
Yes.
that way.
Yes.
I'd like to think that we have a voice, and whether or not they all agree with that voice is a subjective thought, but
Well,
to be listening to that voice is really concerning.
I always think that if you have a concern, it should be expressed publicly, debated, and then a vote taken on it.
That was my point in saying that we
Yeah.
pay an assessment.
Yes.
It's partly because of what we pay that everybody exists.
Yeah.
So, all right, well, we got our work cut out for us. We definitely need to put something on the internet. And maybe Mr. Galvin can point out that we're seeking candidates for
Thank you,
the
Jackie.
consideration for the Cape Commission to represent the town.
Thank you.
But our sincere thanks, Jackie. All right, let's double back. Mr. McGrail.
Hi, Mr. Chair. This evening I have the vote to affirm the town administrator's appointment to Michael McCaskill as my designee to the Harwich Affordable Housing Trust for a term to expire June 30th, 2026. After consideration, I'm requesting that the Select Board vote to affirm my appointment of Michael McCaskill to the Harwich Affordable Housing Trust for the term I mentioned, June 30th, 2026, which is the term that is expiring, that Larry Valentine is expiring. Mr. McCaskill has extensive municipal experience and government background that I believe would bring balance to the trust. I'd like to thank Larry Valentine for his time serving the trust, and I'd like to make it clear that the only reason I'm looking to go in a different direction was his desire to continue to serve on the trust in the short term. He made that, first I invited him in to meet with me and talk about the opportunity. He made it clear that he was only looking to continue on a very short-term period. So, lastly, I also considered the warrant article changing this appointment process for the trust, which would proposing to take it away from the town administrator and have a select board appointee. So this also creates a short duration appointment, and the board will likely take that up again soon, following what happens at town meeting.
And to be clear, you interviewed him as well as
I did.
Larry.
Yep. I interviewed Mike as well as Larry, and honestly, Larry, the first thing Larry said is this is not something I'm looking to do for much longer here, so that weighed in my decision making pretty heavily.
Discussion? Motion? It needs a confirmation.
Mr. Chair, I move we vote to affirm the town administrator's appointment of Michael McCaskill as the town administrator's designee on the Harwich Affordable Housing Trust, term to expire June 30th, 2026.
Second.
And I do want to state for the record that our intention in appointing anybody to this position is not to dismantle it and close it down, but as you said, to create some balance. And there's still 4 other members that have voices in this discussion. And there was no intent whatsoever to strip the trust of any authority.
I think that what I heard from the select board and what would be a good fit in this appointment would be somebody that has municipal experience, that understands how government's run and can help the trust and help Jeff in his role there to kind of bring it in because of that. So I thought Mike fit that bill given his experience sitting at this table.
Okay, further discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. And also, thank you to Larry Ballantyne, who's done a lot of service to this town.
Letter for him here, and then the appointment behind that. Is that backwards?
Just you.
Oh, that's just me.
Yep.
All right, now, E, the discussion revolving Ember is not for a resolution tonight, but it is that we had received a request, several requests, to close, but those all came after they were already closed. So the discussion I'd like to have is whether we want to refer that to the town administrator to do a fact-finding hearing, come back to us with recommendations. Not to get deeply involved in, the particulars. So I would like to see if we can get a motion to refer the matter to the town administrator for him to hold a hearing so he can get back to us.
So,
Second?
second,
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
is there other options to deny the request?
Yeah, but let's be obvious about it. The request to close came after they were closed. So that ship had sailed.
Rhetorical.
Yep. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous.
Mr. Chair, I move we approve a special permit application for Race Cancer Foundation for a road race permit for an event to be held on May 31st, 2026, from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m., event to be held on various roads in Harwich.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the Race Cancer Foundation. Any further discussion?
We have
Okay,
someone
maybe
that's
the
waiting
gentleman
to.
here.
You traveled near and far to get here, so,
Well, I live a mile away.
like I said, near and far. but you can make your pitch.
Well, I'm really just here to answer any questions if they come up, because frankly, when I talk about this stuff, I get pretty excited, and you guys might be shutting me down.
That's okay. My advice for anybody coming in front of us is always leave them wanting more.
Thank you.
It's an old entertainment thought.
So my name's Alan, I'm the executive director of the organization. I'm also a resident of Harwich, and the event is proposed, has historically happened for the last 11 years. This will be the 12th year, on the first Sunday after Memorial Day, and that's what we're planning on doing this year as well. The name Tour de Barnstable came because it was a tour of the 7 villages of Barnstable. I took it over 2 years ago in 2024. And when I took it over as the founder of a nonprofit, my goal was to expand the ride, which had been a for-profit ride, expand it into a nonprofit fundraiser, a cancer fundraiser, aptly named for Raise Cancer Foundation, and ultimately with the vision of growing it beyond the town of Barnstable. And, you know, as luck would have it, it's also Barnstable County, so it sort of lends itself well to becoming, you know, a good transformation without a name change. So I'm proposing for 2026 to expand the ride from the town of Barnstable as far east as Harwich. We're also going to go as far west into Sandwich, and I'm seeking the Select Board's approval on having approximately 300 riders ride about 5 miles through Harwich, 5 miles of the 69-mile route. They'll be in town between approximately 8:40 a.m. and 9 a.m. on that stretch of road, or the 5 miles. So the streets impacted are on the back of page 2, but it's no road closures involved whatsoever. It's just, we've got intersections with police detail and flaggers, and the goal is to get the cyclists through those turns safely. There'll be, as we always have, there'll be a large posse of motorcycle officers leading them and doing a rolling closure. But even though we use the word rolling closure, we do get cars past the cyclist safely, even when the riders are, two abreast, which happens occasionally, but we generally keep the rider single file. So this is not something that we expect to have any major traffic impact on the town, any disruption. But more importantly, it's an opportunity, I think, for the ride to, show the other villages that we have, towns that we have here on Cape Cod, especially the one that I live in and call home.
Great. Any questions, folks?
No.
Mark?
Just one quick question. I think that's great. You're not going to have to close the roads, single file. If you could just encourage the riders. I notice a lot of riders like to veer out right in the middle of the road, almost to dare you, but it's a busy road. If you can just encourage them to stay to the right-hand side of the road, I'm sure we can, that will make for a lot better race.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I'd caution you, it's not a race. This is considered a fundraiser ride. It's a relaxed ride. Yes, we do have some riders that are allowed to go 23, 24 miles an hour. The police escort will allow them to go that fast in some sections. But by and large, the average speed for this thing is 14, 15 miles an hour for most of the cyclists, which is far from, the 26 to 30 miles an hour you typically see in a bike race.
And I think I speak for the whole board that we could find you an orange vest so you could become an on-site marshal on a bicycle if you would like to do that.
Second.
I'll send
If
the
you're concerned
volunteer
about
registration link over to Mark. Thank you.
Any further discussion?
No, thanks. Mine was on the road closure, so I appreciate that update.
Okay.
Good. Thank you. No, I'm good.
Okay, so there's a motion on the floor to approve it. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for your time and support.
Okay, you're up.
Mr. Chair, I move we approve a special permit application for a one-day liquor license, wines and malt for Heather McKenzie for an event to be held on May 9th, 2026, from 2:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. at 204 Sisson Road.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve. Are you Heather? I am. You could speak and make it worth your while to come, or you could just be satisfied that we're going to vote for it.
I'm shy, but
That's okay.
if you'd like to see a flyer or something, I'll leave
Yeah, you can't hear you out in our TV audience unless you're up in one of these two places.
Where do I go?
Either one that makes you comfortable. You could sit at the desk or you could stand at the podium.
I'll stand. My name is Heather McKenzie, and I'm a longtime studio tenant of the 204, the Cultural Arts Municipal Building. And
Thank you for saying that.
And I am also a photographer and artist, but I'm also, in my past life, I had a 32-year career as a camerawoman for ABC News in Los Angeles. So I thought it would be interesting to hold a seminar, and I have a couple of friends, a filmmaker and a professional photographer and studio executive for photography, and he also did photojournalism out in San Francisco. And we're having a photography show, an exhibit, for the month of May, but we're having the seminar on May 9th from 2:30 to 4:30. Everybody's invited, it's a free event, and then it's followed by a reception for the art show and the seminar. So we'll be able to have one-on-one discussions and things like that.
Discussion?
Good.
I got a question.
Sure.
It's, let's see here, for a one-day liquor license, so the question is, do you have somebody that's a bartender in real life, or?
Well, Kara's going to be there, or one of the people that,
Is she your taste tester, or?
or perhaps somebody who is assisting there. But it's not that much wine, and we're just going to have some wine and basically more soft drinks and seltzers and things like that than
No, I get that, but
wine.
nonetheless, you're still required to meet the statutory requirements for the state about serving minors.
You mean
and
a professional bartender?
Anybody who
Well,
is capable of understanding.
I'm not in that stage yet to talk to Kara about exactly who I need and
Okay.
that kind of thing, but we're trying to do everything by the book.
And the reason I bring it up is, in your mind, it may be snacks and soft drinks, but nonetheless, when we convey a single-day license, there's all of the requirements that accrue to a pouring establishment have to be followed.
Well, Kara will let me know who I need to bring in for that, pay for that.
Mark?
Is it going to be held in your studio, in the
No,
library?
it's in the library.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Jeff, anything?
No, nothing.
We're good? All right. So, you've had your say, so we've had a motion. Second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. Congratulations. Now you can plan.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, I move we approve the following 2026 seasonal inn holders license renewal. Allen Harbor Inn, 326 Lower County Road.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the seasonal inn holders license at Allen Harbor Inn. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous.
Mr. Chair, I move we vote for the intent to award a contract for the Phase 3A sewer extension project.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to vote the intent to award a contract for Phase 3A sewer extension project, which I think we've already had that discussion, Jay.
Yeah, we've had the discussion, and you've already voted to authorize me to sign this letter to SRF.
And the ultimate contract, we're going to wind up,
Full contract will come to you.
Yeah,
This is
that's
the
what-
letter we're gonna send
that's what I'm trying to
SRF,
parse.
Asking for their permission to have you award the contract.
okay, so that's a two-parter. When we get to the point of awarding the contract, it's within our purview. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. Now, old business. I know it seems like we finished, but we haven't really entirely finished. I had a meeting with Brian Sullivan today. There was some thought about trying to salvage the accessory dwelling unit bylaw that we had recommended indefinite postponement for. The current prevailing feeling is amongst him as the chair of the ZBA and Duncan Barry as the chair of the planning board, that they would prefer to see it indefinitely postponed so that they could actually present a clean copy with no amendments on town meeting floor.
I'm trying to get in my memory here, reading the packet, I thought that the FinCom recommended approval.
Maybe, but they don't want approval because
Understood, but they make the motion on the floor, is what I'm saying.
we're going to have to confer with them ultimately, because what can be approved has to be consistent, and that's been the problem. It has to be consistent with some of the recommendations that Amy Questle has provided through KP Law, and it's convoluted. It's pretty extensive. And that was the discussion I had. You know, we'd have to open the warrant, which got sent to the printer today, by the way. Then we'd have to open the article. Then we'd have to reconsider our position. Even then, you got that's where they are all convinced. You got to get it past the 2/3 threshold, and you got to have a motion that's coherent enough for everybody to follow. When you start saying delete paragraph 3 in its entirety and insert the following, whatever FinCom decided upon, and I believe that they could change themselves in a subsequent meeting between now and town meeting, it can't be done as it's written. I mean, nobody wants to see it done as it's written, because the discussion about even the square footage was ponderous, gave no clarity, but they really intended 1,000 square feet, not half of the square footage of the existing house, in which case you're going to have that kind of discussion in a town meeting, and I'm not sure that that's going to go well. But Jay?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that and/or on the 1,000 square feet was definitely something that they feel like they want to remove now, the or, talking to the ZBA and to the planning board chair as well. So given that, I think if we just focus on the fact that what's currently in the warrant has the or, and now they'd like to remove the or in the future, I could go back. I'm going to be at the finance committee meeting on Thursday night. I can explain that the zoning board and the planning board chair both want to tweak the language that's been presented and ask them to, reconsider their vote to indefinitely postpone. Then when we get to town meeting, rather than deal with the article, just move, quickly to indefinitely postpone.
In the conversation, it was more convoluted than that, because it is not just the removal of an or, it is the half of the square footage of the house, the greater of half of the square footage of the house, or 1,000 square feet, but so the greater than becomes integral.
That changes too.
Yeah.
I can make that case to the finance committee on Thursday. I'm sure they'll reconsider if everyone's rowing in the same direction, the select board, planning board, and ZBA.
But you were quite right, that was the position.
Okay, we're talking about Article 53?
Yes.
Okay,
I think that's the zoning change, the ADU zoning.
yeah, it's a zoning change.
But I can assure you, we're not blown by anybody. I met with Brian for about an hour today. I've spoken with Duncan. Everybody's in agreement. Mark?
So the fact that it's indefinitely postponed, does that mean it's not addressed in this town meeting? It will go to next year, or?
He believes that there's adequate transparency in the state law, that because the state law trumps, we can make it more restrictive than the state, but we can't make it less. So he would, we're slogging along with the building commissioner to basically utilize what the state is saying now anyway, but it would have been better for this to be consistent with the state statute.
And to be clear, when I met with Brian as well, I had met Friday prior to Donna meeting him today. He said, in his opinion, not changing it at this town meeting would not hinder them whatsoever over the next year until it's resolved because of the state law.
Jeff, you have anything? So I just wanted to bring that to everybody's attention, plus the fact that nobody's mentioned it, but thank you, Jen, thank you, Natasha. This went off to the printer today.
Real quickly, I agree with the thanks, but I believe we talked about last week that 54 is a byproduct of 53 article.
Which is that one again?
Which the Finance Committee also fully recommended.
I'll deal with both on Thursday night. Yeah, I was changing the terms that won't be relevant when
Yeah, because, again, we got the practical problem where it's virtually insoluble now because we've got the warrant gone to the printer. We voted to close the warrant. It would require at least 4 motions to even get to the point of discussing what we want to do with that particular article. You have to vote to reconsider, vote to open up the warrant again, vote to reconsider the article itself, and vote to make a new position known. So, I mean, it's not only cumbersome, it's almost impossible to do right now.
No, I agree with all that, just because, again, the FinCom has a positive for both 53 and 54, both of you have success.
I'll have success. I think if I just presented that the select board, the ZBA, and the planning board are all in the same direction on this, I imagine it would go well. I'll let you know next Monday.
I mean, this is just my impression, but this year, the relationship between FinCom and us is like dramatically better than it's been in the past, and I could see us doing this cooperatively. Jeff?
Not to this topic, but to the topic of opening the warrant, reopening the warrant. Where do we stand with the school roof? When we left last week, I think there was going to be more discussion with Mr. Carpenter, Mr. McMillan, the school committee. And
I'll take response. I need to reach out to them and schedule a date. I'll see if they can come next Monday night. I haven't had a chance to reach out to them yet.
That's fine.
I need to do that.
No, a good point. And I did have occasion to read an article in the Chronicle, which was extremely accurate about that, in terms of what our concerns were to put a 50-year roof on a 60-year-old building to get you to 110 years. So that I haven't changed my position. And I don't think anybody here has either about
I'm going to email them right now.
what kind of investment that would be.
I think I'm also asking what the process would be for us at this
So
point.
that's a lot simpler. That's not a zoning bylaw. If somebody wants to make a motion that has an article associated with it that says, I move that we accept and adopt with the exception of the material and the total amount, you can do
Yeah.
that.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, we just got to get them.
Because you're voting on the motion, you're not voting on the article. Anybody else have anything about the warrant? Because I think we pretty much put it to bed.
Dr. Brent, it's in bed.
That's kind of the point I was making. And again, thank you. All right. So we'll move along. Town Administrator's report.
Just a few items this evening. First, the employment offer. I wanted to let the board know that I've appointed Roger Miller to the position of per diem van driver for the Council on Aging. I look forward to a positive contribution to both the community and the Council on Aging. Just a few contracts that I've signed. First, a change order. I've signed a change order to for the DPW plow unit 3. Unit 3 is now available. However, the plow for this unit has changed in cost since the unit was originally fabricated. The request for the change order is an increase of $1,500 for the plow. The prior authorization amount of $16,925, and the change order amount is $18,000. The full amount, including the change order, is $18,425. There was an Article 18 of the 2024 annual town meeting that appropriated funds for this. Continue on with storm damage tree removal. Executed a contract for just about approximately $15,000 with Bartlett Tree to position them as soon as they're done at Cranberry to head over to the cemeteries to work on storm damage remediation at Island Pond Cemetery. It includes removal of hanging limbs and other safety hazards. These are trees that the DPW wasn't able to, they needed specialized equipment to be able to get up there hanging from widow makers, basically. So they're going to be working on that. The work is expected to span 3 days. Comfort Stations signed an annual contract for approximately $69,000 for janitorial services for the comfort stations at the beaches. We solicited 3 companies to provide quotes and only received 1 response from Partners Facility Solution. That's the firm that provided the same services to the comfort stations at the beaches last year. I guess they had a successful season. This is from Sean Libby. Sean managed this contract. He said they had a successful season. They were well maintained. We had no issues with them last year. I'm hoping that's the case. Taking his recommendation on that one. So those are 3 contracts that I signed in the last week. They're in the packets. An update on the wastewater retained earnings deficit. Following the FY26 tax recertification last November, and I know the board's aware of this, but just wanted to let the public aware that there was approximately a $300,000 deficit that was certified in the wastewater retained earning fund. We're working diligently, I should say Jen Mintz has been working diligently to verify whether an error was made that resulted in the deficit, and we've made significant progress to resolve this issue. The goal is to have it resolved by the end of the fiscal year and to be able to correct and recertify anything that's resulted in the deficit as soon as we possibly can. Also confident that the deficit is not the result of any entries made by wastewater staff. So working to resolve that. We don't honestly believe that the deficit is wastewater borne, but we're just trying to prove that out right now. Community center events. I'd like to thank Carolyn Carey and the staff at the Community Service Center for the last two great community events that were held over the last week. First, we joked about it last week with the pasta dinner, but it was this past Thursday, and it was extremely well attended and a very, very popular event. Then Saturday morning, they held their annual pancake breakfast with the Easter Bunny. The event was also well attended. Different demographic, Thursday night, lots of senior citizens, some family members, lots of little kids on Saturday morning. Everyone that came had a great time, and it was great food. They were making bunnies out of the pancakes, so that your second pancake was cut in half, and it was 2 ears with the round face, so it was kind of creative. The team at the community center does a great job supporting the residents of our community. It's events like the pasta dinner and the pancake breakfast that really make Harwich a special town, especially for the people that participate in them. So, update on the herring harvest permits. On Saturday, Stephanie Ridnour, who's gone now, along with Amy Wazowski, began selling the herring harvest permits at the Harbor Master Natural Resource Facility. So the sale began at 10 o'clock. Right? People started lining up to get the permits at 6 a.m.
Oh, wow.
So they were there 4 hours before we sold the first permit, waiting in line. In the 4 hour, we sold permits from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. In the 4-hour window, we sold 30 non-resident permits, which was the cap. So we sold all of the non-resident permits we had available, and 67 resident taxpayer permits. We have approximately 53 permits still available, and I'd really like to take a minute just to thank Stephanie and Amy for doing this past Saturday. That's a day off for Stephanie and for Amy, and they're in there grinding. I mean, when I stopped by, the line was out the door. They're checking documentation, issuing the permits, and dealing with a lot of other stuff that they don't necessarily need to deal with. And just wanted to thank them for their hard work on putting that together. And then lastly, I was smart enough to say yes to a Friday afternoon tour of the Cold Brook Eco Restoration Project at the Preserve on Bank Street. I had the opportunity to take a tour of the Cold Brook Preserve with the Harwich Conservation Trust President Thomas Evans and Executive Mike Luck. We toured the preserve and then had an opportunity to get a tour of the old Harwich Firehouse. Unbelievable. I mean, between the preserve and the firehouse, what an asset to this community. Absolutely. I was shocked. I was thoroughly impressed and happy for the opportunity to learn more about the property and everything that they're doing over there. Very, very unbelievable and passionate group of people, the Harwich Conservation Trust and the Fire Association, with the work they did at that old station. Pretty impressive stuff. So just wanted to tell the board about it. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
You're not getting away that easily.
Okay.
Yukon or Michigan?
I'm going Yukon.
Okay, but you're on record then.
Yeah, New England.
It's on tape.
Definitely not picking somebody outside of New England when I can pick New England.
Any questions for the town administrator? Okay, selectmen report.
I was hoping that we might send a follow-up communication to the Chatham Select Board.
Good point. Sure. Reminding them that we sent a letter and we'd like to have a discussion at some point. Something in that order?
Something along those lines.
Okay, sure. Make sure we talk about it tomorrow.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to let the board know that I attended a housing committee meeting last week. I was very impressed about how they're coming together and they're moving forward. And I also attended the COA volunteer luncheon that they had for all the volunteers at the COA.
I
And
had that in my report.
I was waiting for it, and
It's on
Jay
my
was,
list.
Jay was also
Flat
there.
backups here, don't
I
worry.
know.
And I'd like to thank all the volunteers. I know I didn't get a chance to say anything there, but all the volunteers at the COA, that room was packed. And I was very impressed with everyone that donates their time to help all the seniors that we have here in town. So I just wanted to let the board know that that's what I had done last week.
That was a very special lunch, and thank you, Anita, for coming. I think it meant something to have both of us there for the people that were in the room, and talk about a group of people that really deserve to be thanked. I mean, their mantra that day was the volunteers that we had in that room make up 2 FTEs to the town that we don't have to pay for. So the work that they do is equivalent to 2 full-time employees in the town.
And kind of on a light note, they do tell jokes, I guess. And one of the jokes that they said was, "What do you call a bear that doesn't have any teeth?" A gummy bear. And the whole room bursted out laughing.
I say none of us got it, though.
No, you're all sitting there.
They knew it immediately. 2 women at my table had it before it was.
Carolyn had it.
Of course. That's it. Thank you.
Mark.
I just want to thank Jay for his community outreach. I knew he was at the pasta dinner. I saw the spaghetti stains on his shirt the following day. And he did the community breakfast, which was great being out there. And I'd just like you to give a thought, now that the newsletter's starting to go out, to naming it, giving it a name.
Yeah, I thought about
And,
that.
I get it on my email every Friday, an email from Chatham, Main Sheet, the town of Chatham, Main Sheet, so people know what it is, so.
Yeah, I thought
just to give
about,
it some thought.
one of the things I thought about is maybe doing a survey to the community to try to get people, I'd like have some sort of contest, name the
Just
newsletter.
like what Emily
Yeah.
did, yeah.
Yeah, you can
Did you do
discuss that. No, she did it with the, I voted.
Yeah, I was thinking about, because I can't come up with anything creative, but I could, people in the community, I bet could.
Those people in the back row, want to confer with them.
Sounds good.
Mark, I'm curious, did you ever see anything about the letter we sent them in that Main Street newsletter?
Say that again?
Now, let's behave, because we're all going to have a civil conversation eventually, right? Right.
We are.
That's it.
Jeff?
I'm going to hand that down, Mark, if you take one and pass it to the rest of the board members. Maybe this can make the packet and correspondence next week. And Jay, yeah, you really are everywhere. I just want to, is everything okay at home? Everything's good at home, right?
You know why everything's okay at home? She was away.
Okay, got it, okay.
Makes it real easy. I don't know about long-term, but
So, members of the board, what you have in front of you is something that was brought to my attention by Mr. Brennan Lowney, who, in my opinion, is just an incredible asset and is he outworks himself every week. He's really, truly an asset to this town. With Pine Oaks 4 receiving their comprehensive permit in December, and the appeals process concluded on January 1. This board, I believe, but I'd like to make sure this is accurate and town administrator can help with this. It reads, a municipality must provide the developer the documentation required to support a local preference within 3 months of the final issuance of the comprehensive permit. Failure to comply with this requirement shall be deemed to demonstrate that there is not a need for local preference, and the local preference shall not be approved as part of the affirmative fair housing marketing plan or use restriction. So this is a big deal. We are, if Pine Oaks is moving forward, they've got their comprehensive permit.
Can't adjudicate it tonight, but I guarantee we'll put it on for
I am
next
looking
week.
to have, yeah,
It'll be
exactly
on next
that,
week.
Mr., okay, great. And then the second, my second item is another topic for down the road. My feeling is, and I don't know how the rest of the board feels, that's why I'm asking for a discussion, I would prefer this board to be the hearing authority on violations regarding liquor licenses. I think, being part of several of them last year and the year before, I think as the licensing authority, we should hear it, we should deliberate, and we should put forth whatever punishment, I guess.
We should put that on agenda too, because I want to make sure we know the pluses and minuses. of it.
100%. And I'm speaking from a place of no knowledge on how it could go the other way, but I'm sure you've seen it.
Yeah, I've
Okay.
seen it both ways.
Great. So I would like that to be an agenda item down the road, and I'll email that to you tomorrow, Mr. Chair.
I'd like the police chief to be involved in that.
Yeah,
discussion, too.
absolutely, absolutely.
Jay.
Thank you, that's all.
I'm going to end with saying I am super impressed with Carol and Carrie, that she has such an in with historic figures that she was able to get a hold of, never mind invite into the community center the Easter Bunny. Depending on the season, she seems to have the connection to just about everybody. So with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn, except for people who don't want to watch the basketball game tonight.
Second.
Okay, it's moving second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned.